Here's the strange part. For 2,000 years, people in the Amazon grew food on some of the poorest soil on Earth. Tropical rain that strips nutrients out of the ground in a single season, and clay so weathered it should grow almost nothing. And yet, right in the middle of it, there are patches of deep black earth that are still fertile today. Not fertilized last spring, fertile for 2,000 years. The title of this video says those ancient people never used fertilizer, and I need to correct that before we go one step further. Because it is not quite true, and the truth is far more interesting than the myth. They did not skip soil building. They did something most modern gardeners have never been taught to do. They engineered the soil itself so that it never needed rescuing again. The scientists who study it call it terra preta, which simply means black earth. And by the end of this video, you will understand the exact reason it works, and how the same principle applies to your own beds this season. Let me show you what your grandparents understood about soil that most of us were quietly allowed to forget. Stay with me, because the third element is the one almost everyone gets wrong. First, let me tell you why your soil keeps failing, no matter how much you feed it. Most of us were taught a very simple story about growing food. The plant takes nutrients out of the soil, so you add nutrients back in a bag every single season, and it works for a while. But here's what that story quietly leaves out. When you pour soluble nutrients onto weathered soil, most of it does not actually stay there. Rain moves down through the ground, and your nutrients move with it. This is called leaching, and it is exactly what happens in the Amazon at full speed every time it rains. So the ancient gardeners faced a problem far worse than yours. They could not simply keep buying more. They had to build soil that holds on to what it is given and releases it slowly. And that is the whole secret hiding inside terra preta. It is not a fertilizer, it is a storage system. Before I go further, one quick thing, because it matters for what comes next. Everything I'm walking through today, the full reasoning and the science behind it, I have put together into one complete reference guide called the Sovereign Garden Code. It is a structured document with the cited studies, the safe application ranges, and the step-by-step build for people who want the whole method in one place instead of piecing it together. It is available this week for $24.97, with a 90-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment if you want it. But you do not need to buy anything to get real value from this video, so let us keep going. Here's the first element, and it is the foundation that everything else rests on. The ancient gardeners added charcoal to the soil, not ash. Charcoal made by letting wood smolder slowly with very little oxygen. Today we call this material biochar, and this is where the science gets genuinely remarkable. Under a microscope, a single piece of biochar looks like a sponge, riddled with millions of tiny pores. That structure does two things at once, and research from Cornell University and soil scientists around the world has confirmed both. First, all of that surface area holds on to nutrients through something called cation exchange capacity. In plain terms, the charcoal carries a slight negative charge, and plant nutrients carry a positive charge, so they cling to it instead of washing away. Your soil stops leaking. The nutrients you add stay in reach of the roots, season after season. Second, those same millions of pores become housing for soil life. Bacteria and beneficial fungi move into that structure and stay protected inside it. And healthy soil is not just dirt, it is a living system teeming with organisms that feed your plants. The biochar gives that living system a home that does not wash out in the very next storm. This is the part the fertilizer story never told you. You were sold food for the plant. What the plant actually needed was a living soil that feeds itself. Now, an honest caution, because I promised you the truth and not a sales pitch. You cannot simply throw raw charcoal on your beds and walk away expecting miracles. Fresh biochar will actually pull nutrients away from your plants at first, because it is empty and it wants to fill those pores. The ancient gardeners solved this without ever knowing the chemistry behind it. They mixed the charcoal with kitchen scraps, with fish remains, with animal manure, with broken pottery, and they let it all age together. By the time it finally reached the soil, that sponge was already fully charged. That is the second element. The charcoal is the storage. The organic matter is what you load into it before it ever goes in the ground. Get that order wrong, and you will be disappointed and blame the method. Get it right, and you're building something that genuinely lasts. Which brings us to the third element, the one I said almost everyone gets wrong. It is not an ingredient at all, it is time. Modern gardening sells you speed. Feed this week, see results this week, buy again next week. Terra preta was built on the exact opposite idea. The people who made it were not feeding a single season. They were building ground their grandchildren would inherit. Soil scientists who study these patches describe them as self-sustaining, holding their fertility across centuries, long after the people who built them were gone. That is the real mindset shift, and it is worth more than any product. You are not buying your soil a single meal. You are giving it a foundation. And once that foundation is built, it works for you every season after, asking less and less from your wallet each year. Now let me be completely clear about what this does and does not mean for your own garden. The exact recipe the Amazon used cannot be copied perfectly, and any honest soil scientist will tell you exactly the same thing. Those soils formed over very long periods, with specific local materials, in one particular climate. What carries over to your beds is the principle, and the principle is what has real power. Build for retention, not just for feeding. Charge your carbon before it goes in. Feed the living system, not only the plant. Those 3 ideas alone will change how your soil behaves, and you can begin applying them this very season. If you want the full reasoning laid out properly, with the studies, the safe application ranges, and the exact sequence to build charged biochar without stalling your plants, that is what the Sovereign Garden Code is for. 3 specific protocols anchor the entire method. The charged carbon protocol, which is the exact loading process, so your biochar helps from day one instead of stealing nutrients from your plants. The living soil protocol, which is how you seed and protect the microbial life that makes the whole system self-sustaining. And the retention layer protocol, which is how you structure the bed itself so that nutrients stop washing out for good. Those 3 are the heart of it, and they are laid out in full, step by step, inside the guide. It is $24.97 this week, with a 90-day money-back guarantee, and you keep everything even if you ask for a refund. The link is in the description and the pinned comment below. But whether or not you ever open that guide, I want you to leave this video with something real in your hands. So picture 2 gardens 1 year from now. In the first, you did what almost everyone does. You bought another bag of feed this spring and another one next spring, and the soil underneath is exactly as tired as it always was. In the second, you spent 1 single season building instead. You charged your carbon, you fed the living system, you built for retention. And now the ground itself is quietly doing the work that you used to pay for every month. One of those gardens depends on the store. The other one belongs entirely to you. That is what Terra Preta really teaches us. Not a trick and not a shortcut. A completely different relationship with the ground under your feet. If this changed how you think about your soil, and you want more of the old knowledge explained with the real science behind it, subscribe to this channel. That is the whole reason it exists. I will see you in the next one.